Everyone, we're back. Sean and I have just finished setting up Oracle. So that took us about 12 minutes to do. As you can see, it's not that crazy, the board. It's just you have a lot of the chests in the two center areas. So I'll go over a few of the areas. The game is heavily based on key areas in the game, right? So we have Healer's Lake, we have the House of Light, and then over here we have the Dark Tower, and that is the Dark Forest. You can't see it because we have the chests over top of it. Those are like the two heavy loot locations. That's where you want to go to, empower your characters. But, I mean, it's the same on the flip side. Your opponent is also going to want to go for those two locations, and that's where a lot of the fighting kind of ends up happening in this area. The whole concept of oracles, it's like chess. We both have the same characters. I have a swordmaster, I have a centaur, Sean has a swordmaster, he has a centaur, and it's the exact same. Each player has 10 characters and a tavern, and each one of these characters all have special abilities that will be on the flip side of their card. As you can see, you can play with either side of the card because the stats are on both sides of the card. And over here we have Helma and Immortus. Immortus, yes, the Dark Tower. So Immortus kind of controls the Dark Tower. This is another objective that the players can shoot for to kind of recruit him onto your team. Yes. And to do so, you have to kill his guardian, Helma. And it's the exact same over here because, like a good game of chess, it has to be even, right? So over here we have the House of Light that the players have an option to go for, and there are two different heroes. Over here, though, we have Augustus, guarded by Stormcaller, his dragon. Now, the two characters there that you can recruit, they're differently powerful. One is better at range, and one is better at close combat.
Exactly.
Now, Sean and I will go over the map here a little bit. So as you can see, it's a pretty grand map, and you can see that there's tiles. The tiles, obviously, you move with the tiles, and certain characters move differently. That's kind of included in what makes them unique. Some characters can move orthogonal, which means they can go, there, 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 or there, or there, or there. Sorry, I meant diagonal, where they can literally skip going two tiles over, they just go do, 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 or, do, 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 directly sideways, which kind of makes them a lot faster when you consider it that way. Instead of having to go down and over to get there, you just kind of go over one, and it saves you a lot of tiles. Obviously, what we see here is there's a river. It is hard to cross. A normal character that can move on foot can go across the bridges, which we see over here, 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 and there is one more right there. Both players have access to a character called the Jumper and Messenger, which obviously so the Jumper can go over the river. The Messenger's got free roam to go all over the place. It's a bird that flies around, so nothing's going to hinder that. The red means impassable, other than the Messenger, if I recall.
Dragons.
And the dragons, that's true.
So basically, the birds can fly. We have two. We have the eagle, we have the griffin, and we have the dragons that can cross any points in any arrangement. They're the most flexible characters. They can have the combination of diagonal, orthogonal, as well as passing the red. And then we have the centaur character, which moves diagonally and orthogonally, or a combination of them. And then we have the jumper that can cross the blue lines, can jump over the rivers, but cannot jump the red areas, which is basically located in the Lava River, the Dark Forest, the mountains here in the Disney Valley, two spots here. And then we have the House of Light in this area.
Right.
We have the House of Light. That's where the gate is, which the protector of House of Light resides. And
that's how you enter?
In order for you to get the support of these two characters and add them to your team, you basically have to attack this spot. And then we have the balancing that is the Dark Forest, where we have the Immortus and Helma reside, where you have to attack the X-Mart. If you can attack the Defender, which is the dragon, then you will have those two characters added to your team, which makes the game much more exciting. It gives a huge leverage to the winners, and it helps to finish the game even faster.
Yeah. The way you deploy your characters is I'm on this side, obviously, and then Sean will be on that side, and we'll be deploying our characters on these green tiles, not the blue ones because that's the river. Over here we have 4 options for chess cards. Now, you said there's 150 cards?
Yes, so as you move your characters on the map and you reach land on a chest, then you remove it from the game.
Right.
And you decide, based on your strategy, what card you want to pick. So if you are a high risker, high reward cards are destiny cards. They may take 2 lives out of your character, or they may suddenly add 1 or 2 lives to it, or give you superpowers that you can use. Mystery cards are 70% good, 30% bad, and they will give you permanent abilities like an extra star, extra heart. And then we have the asset card, which are 100% good, but they are temporary. So that means you can use them only for 1 battle. You can use them for 1 movement that will let you move as a different characters, but they're just one-time temporary. And then we have eventually the battle cards, which basically are the only way that you can really get permanent stars if you can win a game character, what we call them, which none of these are new characters spread in the game in the AR and come out of the battle chest through the picking up a card. So if you have a strong character at the beginning, or if you have a strong character during the game, getting battle calls is great, because as you increase the number of stars of all your characters, you get a bonus shields to the tavern.
Right.
This is part of the game that will help the teamwork paying off.
And then that brings us to the tavern, which are the main objectives of the game. There's obviously a lot of secondary objectives you can shoot for, which help augment and strengthen your team. But the end goal is to destroy your opponent's tavern, and each tavern starts at 4 stars, and the goal is to get that to 0.
Exactly.
But as Sean mentioned, through secondary objectives and accomplishing certain character or getting characters to certain star ranks, the shields of your tavern go up, and it makes it that much harder to kill. So there's alternate ways to win, kind of just like winning through attrition.
Yes.
So that's pretty much everything you need to know. Before setup, we're going to go over that. There's a quick setup guide that comes with the game. This is the physical game. This is what you get with the game, right? You don't need any augmented reality to play. You have all the miniatures you need. You have all the tiles. You have the game board. So the first thing you do is you divide your 2 teams into as even amount of players as you can get. So this is the kind of game where obviously you would have, say you have 10 people over, 2 teams of 5. Each player would take 2 characters, and you would have to kind of dictate who will be the oracle of your team. That's the game's called Oracles. The oracle is the leader of your team. When you're playing with multiple people, the oracle is the one that has the final say in all disputes. Like if you have two people arguing, saying that I want to go to the middle, well, I also want to go to the middle. No, you go over there. The oracle says no. One of you go. You have to go do this instead.
It's basically the captain of the team,
right?
To help to solve the disputes, and also controls 2 of the main characters.
Right, and the oracle does control the healer and the messenger, as they are the more important characters because they're the major support characters of the team.
Yes, the healer basically can give away her own heart to other characters using the messenger, or directly if they're in a good range. And the messenger, moving very long range over any obstacle, can deliver assets and hearts and stars from one character to another, which because it is serving the whole team, the idea is that the leader or the captain or the oracle, what we call it in the game, is should be in charge of deciding that.
Now the next step is normally the 2 team leaders, the oracles, would roll 2 of these, they're called battle dice for the game, they're d6s. Then the higher roll would choose which side they would be deploying their team on. And then naturally, after both players pick their side, I'm on this side, so we'll go ahead and both place our taverns down. And the taverns, they go anywhere you want behind the river, right? That's the idea?
Yes, exactly. They occupy a 2 by 3 square, and you could actually put them anywhere.
I like this spot.
Obviously, you want to put them in a place that we have 4 teleport points in the map that one of the characters, which called teleporter, can enter to them at any point.
And you can jump to the other side of the board.
Yeah, jump to the other side of the board. So you really have to consider that as well. Plus, you want to have the obstacles, the rivers. So the placement of the tavern is a very important part of the game, and one of the first things we'll do. And after that, we start putting the characters across the edge where any green square is. So based on the strategy, the map, the movements, obviously you want to put a character in a place where you have a more freedom and a quicker access, crossing the river where all the chests are and where most of the action happens.
Right.
The way we designed the whole game was we divided into 4 stages. So the first stage is really kind of getting built up. The second stage is really opening the chest and getting even stronger. And then that moves you towards the collusion and attackings and battles. And the last, once you finish with the battle, then the last phase would be really move towards the enemy's tavern to basically finish the game.
One more thing to know with the taverns is they have to be adjacent or touching one of the green starting tiles. So I can't put my tavern here. I have to put it like here, 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 or like that. You know, any which way, as long as it's touching a green tile. Now that Sean have deployed our heroes, let's go over the cards, give you some idea of what they do. So these little plastic bits on the end are trackers to kind of track the characteristic of the cards and what they're at. So this one currently here is at 3 health. There we go. So this heart here means how many lives it has. When this character reaches 0 lives, it is dead, and it cannot come back unless the healer decides it is worthy. Over here we have stars. He starts at 4, can go up to 6, and stars dictate the amount of power dice or battle dice you roll when you go to attack.
Exactly.
And the winner of a battle is whoever rolled the highest total number amongst all the dice that player has rolled. So this guy jumps into combat, he rolls 4 dice, you add them all up, and that's his combat value. Other than that, though, we have the movement characteristic here, which is 5, right in the knots there. And over here, this kind of dictates what this, how many more turns the Psychic controls this character. So the Psychic is a really powerful character, kind of like how chess has a queen.
Somewhat, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the Psychic can mind control your opponent's characters and control them for 2 turns, and it treats them as if they're on your team. They can attack their own allies, stuff like that. So you always have to be careful of the Psychic. And we'll take a look at the flip side. As I mentioned earlier, the characteristics are on the back of the card too, so you can play with either side. You can always play the back side if you always want to reference the ability. Over here, we have fighting range. R1 represents range 1, which means if my character is there, they can attack everyone that is adjacent to them. R2 is range 2, and certain characters have bonuses based on the range they attack at. The movement is orthogonal, and it gives you a little diagram here on how they move. It just simply means that orthogonal, you can only go that way or this way, and you can move like this, but I mean it costs a lot of movement to do so. And a special ability that each character has. The Hunter, my Swordmaster named Hunter, has strength and speed. A great swordsman, Hunter's main source of strength is intelligence and wisdom. He is well suited to guard a weaker character from sneak attacks or lead the charge against an exposed enemy weakness. And so what that means, it kind of defines his characteristics, whereas some of them have special abilities, like the Psychic has a longer rule where it actually dictates what the Psychic does. This just simply means that the Swordmaster has 4 stars, which is pretty strong since the average is 2, so it's twice the strength of the average, and it moves quicker as well at movement of 5. And here's the Psychic's card to give you an idea of her special ability. It's a longer rule, kind of describes what the Psychic can do, and that's simply, the quick description is, mind controls enemy characters and makes them fight on your team for 2 turns. Let's go over the teams. Each team has a Swordmaster, a Centaur, the Archer, the Giant, the Teleporter, the Jumper, the Twins, the Psychic. Each team has a Tavern, of course. Each team has a Messenger who does not have to deploy on the table. The Messenger can show up as an ability wherever you want, whenever you need him. And we have a Healer, which is also the other support character, which has the extra characteristic here, and this represents her special ability of being able to resurrect. And it's a one-time use where you can actually bring back one of your dead characters back to the battlefield, just as they were when the game started, so no assets, no items, nothing like that. They just start back on one of these tiles, back to their starting characteristics. And we have these little gems here, these little tokens to represent who has moved, because it can get a little, if you're moving 8 guys and you try and remember, oh, who did I move at first, right? So they kind of represent who has moved.
At the beginning of the game, while everything is set and ready to go, so before we start our first round, both teams, all the character except for the Messenger, which cannot open any chest, all the other 9 cards or 9 characters, that will choose 1 card out of this 4 sets, where it will help them along the way, which I think we can do that now.
So they've all got their cards, their starting assets, and their starting battle cards, and starting Destiny cards. Sean had mentioned that the Healer it's always kind of safe to take a Destiny card on the Healer, so I went with that. Now the way the cards work is when you loot a chest or get a card, you have to show your opponents the first time you get it.
Yeah, so when you open a chest, you just show it so they know what you've got, but then you can put it face down. That's really part of the strategy, that it is important. You can remember what each character has. It becomes critical, for instance, if a teleporter could really jump over the river with a card they have, and you didn't thought of that, so they may surprise you with an attack.
Right.
Or if a character has a teleport card, they could really use it to disappear when you want to attack them, or appear when you're not really even expecting them, and initiate a chain fight, or make really surprising events in the game.
And I'm not allowed to ask you to see what those cards are after you've already showed them to me.
No, you just see it the first time, and then you just have to remember. And then the other abilities that, as characters are, with each other, they could actually move the assets. So somewhat, you really have to track them to know, okay, now this assets that I remember what it was, now it is moved to Jumper, or from Jumper is moved to Centaur. So that's an important part.
That's actually did not think about that's kind of cool. Yeah, because remember the messenger takes the assets, moves them around, then that's where it gets all jumbled up. Because you could always be the kind of player that writes something down, like, oh, I seen what you got, I'm gonna write it down. And I'm like, oh, but he moved that 2 turns ago, and I can't remember where it is now.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.